Imagine an engineering project so ambitious that it could reshape the political and economic landscape of an entire continent. A megastructure with the potential to redirect trade routes, connect distant coastlines, and transform a region that has been geographically isolated for centuries. This is the bold promise of the Eurasia Canal, a proposed deep-water waterway linking the Caspian Sea directly to the Black Sea. A project so massive that some compare it to the Suez and Panama canals, yet surprisingly few people have even heard of it. The concept sounds like a geopolitical earthquake, a roughly 700-kilometer canal carved across southern Russia, supported by Russia and Kazakhstan, and potentially backed by China. The price tag? Around $20 billion. In return, the landlocked countries of Central Asia would gain something they have never had before: direct sovereign access to the world's oceans. But the motivation behind this project goes far beyond shortening shipping routes. It touches on power, influence, economic independence, and the strategic rebalancing of Eurasia. Supporters call it a once-in-a-century opportunity, a new maritime corridor that could anchor a modern trade network stretching from China to Europe. Critics argue it is an unrealistic idea, technically difficult, financially risky, and politically explosive. Before we can judge who's right, we need to understand why this idea exists in the first place, and why now, after decades of discussion, the Eurasia Canal is once again at the center of geopolitical conversations. To understand the scale of this proposal, you first have to look at the unique geography of the Caspian region. The Caspian Sea is the largest inland body of water in the world, rich in oil, natural gas, metals, and grain. Yet despite its enormous economic value, it has one defining limitation. It has no natural outlet to the global ocean system. Every ton of cargo, grain from Kazakhstan, steel from Russia, or oil from Turkmenistan, must pass through neighboring countries before ever reaching international markets. Currently, the only existing maritime link is the Volga-Don Canal, a Soviet-era waterway completed in the early 1950s. And while it was an engineering marvel at the time, it is now hopelessly outdated. With a depth of just 3.5 meters and limited capacity, it can only accommodate ships of around 5,000 tons. Modern cargo vessels are often 3 to 4 times larger. This bottleneck slows regional trade, increases shipping costs, and makes Central Asia heavily dependent on Russia's internal river system. Kazakhstan, one of the world's top grain exporters, feels this restriction particularly strongly. Without a deep water route, it cannot export at global scale without negotiating transit access through other states. This dependence has shaped the region's economy for decades. After Kazakhstan gained independence in the early 1990s, the country quickly realized that lacking direct access to the sea was one of its greatest strategic disadvantages. Its first president, Nursultan Nazarbayev, believed that a sovereign route to open waters could unlock the nation's economic potential. By 2007, Kazakhstan formally proposed a new deep-water canal to Russia, right as China launched its Belt and Road Initiative. This alignment of interests set the stage for the modern Eurasia Canal concept. The proposed Eurasia Canal would stretch across southern Russia, following a natural geological corridor known as the Kuma-Manik Depression. This valley is one of the very few low-lying pathways between the Caspian and Black Sea basins, making it the only realistic alignment for a canal of this length. By avoiding steep terrain and mountainous regions, engineers could reduce excavation costs and minimize the number of locks required. According to early proposals, the canal would be 6.5 to 7 meters deep, allowing ships of 10 to 15,000 tons to navigate the route, roughly 3 times the capacity of the existing Volga-Don Canal. Annual cargo volumes could reach between 75 and 100 million tons, putting the Eurasia Canal in the same league as some of the world's busiest trade corridors. Ports across the Caspian, Aktau in Kazakhstan, Turkmenbashi in Turkmenistan, and Astrakhan in Russia would gain direct access to the Black Sea. From there, ships could travel through the Turkish Straits into the Mediterranean and beyond. For landlocked economies like Kazakhstan, This would represent a dramatic shift. The Caspian Sea would evolve from an isolated inland lake into a true maritime hub, but building such a canal is far more complex than digging a long trench. The Caspian lies 28 meters below sea level, while the Black Sea does not. Engineers would need a sophisticated system of locks and pumping stations to regulate water levels and maintain navigability. Similar mechanisms operate in the Panama Canal, but the Eurasia Canal's greater length demands even more advanced hydrological management. The terrain presents additional challenges: arid soils prone to erosion, salinization risks, and the need for reinforced embankments. Modern navigation systems, two-way shipping lanes, and large-scale logistics corridors would make the project one of the most technically demanding infrastructure endeavors of the century. For all its promise, the Eurasia Canal is far from guaranteed. In fact, the greatest obstacle isn't geology or engineering, it's financing. With an estimated price tag of $20 billion, the project requires long-term political stability and international cooperation. Russia supports the idea, but its economy faces sanctions and competing priorities. Kazakhstan strongly favors the canal, yet it cannot fund it alone. That leaves one potential heavyweight investor: China. Beijing has both the capital and the engineering expertise, and the canal aligns perfectly with its Belt and Road Initiative. But with rising geopolitical tensions and concerns over dependency on Chinese infrastructure loans, potential partners remain cautious. A project of this scale could take a decade or more to build and several decades to pay off. Too risky for many investors. Environmental concerns also play a role. Excavating millions of cubic meters of earth could alter regional ecosystems, affect water balances, and disrupt farmland. Maintaining stable water levels between two seas with different elevations adds long-term operational risks. Politically, the canal could shift the balance of power in Eurasia. Central Asian countries would gain greater independence in global trade, reducing reliance on Russia's internal river network. Meanwhile, Russia would strengthen its influence as the host nation of a new maritime corridor, while Turkey, controlling access to the Mediterranean, would gain strategic leverage over an expanded flow of goods. So will the Eurasia Canal ever be built? For now, it remains a visionary blueprint, revived repeatedly over the past decades but never fully launched. Yet the idea persists because the need persists. Central Asia wants direct access to the world's oceans, and the global economy continues to shift eastward. Whether the canal becomes a defining megaproject of the 21st century or stays an unrealized dream, one thing is certain: if completed, it would reshape Eurasia in ways the world cannot ignore.